Welcome to the Cinematheque. I'm Marty Green and you're listening to The Ballad of Monish. The Ballad of Monish was originally an epic poem written in the Yiddish language over 120 years ago by a writer named I.L. Peretz, one of the founding fathers of Yiddish literature. And in my self-studies of Yiddish, I came across this poem. It made a big impression on me, and I started working on a rhyming translation just to see if I could kind of duplicate the meter and the rhyme of the original work. And as I pushed my way through it, I liked the way it looked, and what am I going to do with this in the end? And this production is the final result of that. The way it came to be, I have to tell you, I have a pretty good background in country music. My friends from the Times Change Bar on Main Street will remember the many evenings I spent there howling till all hours to an empty hall with only the waitresses adoring me. But when I started setting this to music, I thought my country background would come in handy, but it turns out, because of the types of themes, I gravitated more to the Eastern European folk type music, that the kind of things you heard playing before the show, which I also love. But my country background came into play in one essential respect, which you might not notice on the surface, but it's the interleaving that derives from my country background, because country songs are written in such a way that you sing a line, then the guitars play, and you sing another line, and the fiddle saw. And there's so much space between the sung lines that I noticed quite a while back, there's often room for a whole second song in between the cracks. I'd like to show you how this works. Did you get programs when you came in? If you noticed? Yeah? You did? Some of you got programs. It's just that folder, yeah. And there's a song sheet in there, you've got that. I put the words to that beautiful song by Christopherson. Take the ribbons from your hair. You know how it goes. Help me make it through the night. Anyone going to sing this with me? Let's hear you sing. Take the ribbons from your hair. Shake it loose and let it fall. That's the idea. There you go. Okay. I'm going to ask you to hold that part. I'm going to sing another song in between, just to show you there's room for a whole second song. So you ready here? Take the ribbon, ready? Take the ribbon. Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, with Willie Waylon and the boys. This successful life we're living's got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Coming with all of Hank Williams' pain songs and Newberry's train songs and Blue Eyes crying in the rain. Out in Lukenbach, Texas, there ain't nobody feeling no pain. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you. You like that one? Okay. I got another one. I know there's some Jewish people came to the show, but I'm hoping there's some Christians in the audience. Because the next one is from the gospel repertoire. You're going to sing that one, Just a Closer Walk with Thee. It starts off like, I am weak and you are strong. You know how that one goes? I'm counting on some. That's you. There you go, that's the idea. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, you got kind of a register issue there. Yeah. You might have to sing it out. Okay, you hold your part. You hold your part, I'll hold my part. Now sing it out for Jesus here. Let's go. I'm weak, ready, go. And only say that you'll be mine. In no other's arms entwined, down beside where the waters flow, down by the banks of the Ohio. Now the chorus. And only say that you'll be mine in no other's arms entwined, down beside where the waters flow. Eli, you're not allowed to sing this. Down by the banks of the Ohio. Thank you. Thank you. Anyhow, that is the true genesis of the interleaving concept, which I applied to the Monash project. Now, Yiddish is the language my people spoke in the old country. It's kind of a dialect of German, and Jews have lived in many countries, blah, 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 and spoken many different languages. But why should we care about Yiddish? Why should we bother to remember it? We may answer this question in the course of the afternoon, but to start off, I have to tell you a little bit about myself. I have a degree in electrical engineering, and I'm actually a member of the Engineers Association. I haven't actually worked in the field for 10 years, but I still pay my engineering dues every year. And you wonder why it's $200. I mean, I could just walk away from it, but it was some effort to get in, and you never know in the future when you might want to stand up and be affiliated. So you pay your dues. Now, being a part of the Jewish people is a little bit like that for me. I don't have a strong attachment to the religion. I mean, there's a lot of rules and stuff, and there's stuff about pork and things. There's a lot of praying. The fact is, as a people, we have been paying our dues for 4,000 years. And it seems a shame to just kind of stop paying your dues and walk away from it, especially when they've recently lowered the dues. This work is partly an attempt to show people a time when being Jewish did really mean something, and it was sort of the core of your essence back in the day. And if the time should ever come when you do feel once again that you want to stand up and affiliate, it might not be a bad thing to know who you are and where you came from. Hence, this project. Thank you. Sometimes I move myself. You might have noticed from my translation that I'm treating it as a comedy. And we have to ask the question, because it's a serious theme, you know, temptation and sin, and was this the author's original intent, or is it merely my cynical 20th century slant on the work? Because I think it diminishes the work if I've twisted it around from the original intent. I'm interested in what it was that made people laugh and made people cry 120 years ago in a different time and place. And so I look into it carefully to see if I am following the author's intent. And the first point to notice is the nature of the hero. Now, the Swiss have their William Tell, and the English have their Robin Hood, you know, swashbuckling heroes and daredevils, and it's kind of sad that the first epic ballad written in the Yiddish language, we choose a genius as our hero. It says something about the way what we value, and a Talmudic genius, no less. And this really speaks to an issue that was recognized within Jewish society already for several hundred years, that the question as to whether we don't place far too much emphasis on study and brilliance and knowledge in the following of our religion. And this was a hot topic and something that would be controversial, and it represented a great division in Jewish society back in the day. So the choice of the hero as a Talmudic prodigy speaks to that issue and gives it an opening for satire. I mean, the line where he says, "Oh, the ox who gores the neighbor's cow," you know what that's from? That's what we call the Talmud. You've probably heard of the Talmud. I mean, I had a little bit of Hebrew education. They never told us what the Talmud was about. We thought it was some kind of deep mystical secrets, you know, the relationship of man to God, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Madonna is studying it. But somehow I think for Madonna's sake, maybe they changed the curriculum, because the actual Talmud that our people, 11-year-old kids had to study this back in Russia, and it was The case of the ox who gores the neighbor's cow is drummed into their heads. It's civil litigation. Your animal damages your neighbor's animal. How much do you owe? What's your liability? Blah, blah, blah. It's like today, what they torture kids with is more like, oh, the sum of the square of the two short sides, blah, 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 blah. That is our hero. He's the guy who loves that stuff. Comedy. Second singular circumstance which allows us to identify this as a work of comedy is the strange fact that 20 years after the poem was published, Peretz rewrote it in a completely more serious vein, taking out a whole lot of stuff, which we will make note of in the course of the afternoon. And it is by the comparison of the two versions that we can really see what it was that stuck it to the man back in the day. So let's move on now. We've met the protagonist, Monish. Now it's time to meet the antagonist, to set the dramatic stage. And for this, we go to faraway Asia Minor, in the ruins of an old abandoned boat high up on a mountain.